Welcome to the Hello Seattle podcast, a local perspective on living in and moving to Seattle.
Yeah, we're excited to introduce you to people, places, and communities that make living in our hometown special.
Hello, Seattle. I am your host, Zach McDonald.
I'm your other host, your mortgage guy, Dan Keller. This is a special episode because we're going to talk about Richmond Beach here in Shoreline today, and that happens to be my hood.
Yeah, it is. I love Richmond Beach. It feels like my hood, too. I just live in the little brother of Richmond Beach up the hill. So
Yeah, well, so our last episode where we kind of introduced season 2, which is Shoreline, we talked about the different communities and neighborhoods within Shoreline. And there's so many of them. Well, Shoreline is so tight anyways, but specifically where we are talking about, where you live and where I live, within walking distance to each other.
Yeah, super close. And
yeah.
Shoreline has, we've talked about this, 14 different neighborhoods that are outlined by the city. And we've got Richmond Beach in the far northwest quadrant. So you got Woodway on the north side. You've got Hillwood on which is the other neighborhood where I'm at over on the east side. You're backing up to Edmonds a little bit. Actually, I think is it only just Richmond Beach? It's kind of right on the edge. Let's see if you actually touch. Yeah, you do border Edmonds a little bit. So you kind of got a mixture of Edmonds and Woodway there. Woodway's farther west.
Yep.
And then you're bordering Enos Arden, which is a little bit farther south.
Yep. And we'll end up working our way down there and talking about Enos Arden, which is the up on the hill there with the beautiful views. So Richmond Beach, you're kind of coming down the hill and you're on the beach or near the beach.
Well, part of it's right on the beach.
Yeah.
We've got, in my mind, it's always starting a little bit farther west than it actually does. So Richmond Beach goes all the way up to 8th Avenue. And I live just on the other side of 8th Avenue. So I'm really close to Richmond Beach.
Yeah.
I'm barely in Hillwood.
Yeah.
But just down the hill is the start of Richmond Beach. And so in my mind, though, it's quite a bit smaller than it actually is. It's a pretty good sized neighborhood. And we talk about neighborhoods, if you're not familiar with the area, it's more of a grid on a map. And on the street, you don't have a lot of planned developments. There are a few condo communities and little pocket neighborhoods inside of Richmond Beach with, 5, 6 houses. But in general, we're just talking about the grid on the map, just like Seattle and another bigger city.
Yeah. So let's talk about Richmond Beach, kind of the characteristics of Richmond Beach. So when you typically think of like a coastal town, you think of like you're down on the street, you're downtown, and there's some shops and there's some housing maybe around that or above. Richmond Beach is just a little bit different. So down there on the beach, Richmond Beach, you have houses. Well, I guess you do have one business. You got the little cabin.
Oh,
tavern,
the tavern. That is such a great spot. It's a mess. That building is like, it feels like you're about to fall into the ocean.
Oh, totally.
It's all over.
It's happening though. So my wife and I, we live down on Richmond Beach, and we will walk our little dogs at night, and especially during the summer months, spring and summer months, Zach, the place is popping.
Oh, I know. I've been there. I've been there multiple times.
Yeah.
It's a great little spot. And like you said, it's a local watering hole.
Oh, totally. Right in the middle of a neighborhood down on the water. So that does make Richmond Beach a little unique, but your typical coastal town where you got a bunch of shops or businesses down on the water, that's not Richmond Beach. Richmond Beach is a lot of housing. Now up above, you get into actually, let's kind of work our way up the hill. Down below, there's a couple of restaurants, a little mini mart on the top of the hill there, the first hill out of Richmond Beach. Now, as you go up the second hill,
the little store, right?
The little store, yeah. And then there's the Blackbird. So we'll talk about some businesses here in a minute that we really like, but we like the Blackbird Cafe. There's a veterinarian hospital and then a dog groomer down there. And that's near, if we're trying to geographically explain this to you, that's near Saltwater Park, the top of Saltwater Park. So as you kind of go up the hill closer to Hillwood, where you live,
so you're going up Richmond Beach Road is the name of the road.
Richmond Beach Road up, or east, you're going to get to the top of the hill, and that's where you'll see the Santa Fe restaurant. You'll see the Rite Aid pharmacy. You're going to see a gas station, and then you're also going to see the QFC.
QFC,
yeah,
and there's a Starbucks up there
and
too.
a Starbucks, yeah. So, but that's not really. Is that considered Richmond Beach, or is that considered?
It's not
Hillwood?
Richmond Beach, but that's where you're going to do your shopping, right? If you live in Richmond Beach, you're probably going up to that QFC. They call it the Richmond Beach QFC, but it's technically in Hillwood,
right?
And then you can even go farther up 185th. Which is what it turns into. And you've got the Fred Meyer, and there's a lot of other businesses out by Highway 99. So more of a car-friendly type of neighborhood. It's not super walkable for getting to the grocery stores and that type of stuff. I mean, you got Trader Joe's and Central Market not very far away either.
Yeah, that's what we talked about last week that makes Shoreline unique is you've got 99 Aurora, which is right at the top of the hill up 185th. And then from there, you've got Fred Meyer. If you head south a couple of blocks, you got the Trader Joe's. If you were to continue going, I guess, what would that be, southwest? You're down into Ballard. So yeah, there's a what makes Richmond Beach unique is you do have that little coastal town, that coastal neighborhood, I'll say. But you're so close to downtown Edmonds. You're so close to downtown Ballard. And then you're close to Aurora, where life happens on Aurora, Zach.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I think, Richmond Beach, thinking about the history of Richmond Beach, we talked about the history of Shoreline in general, but Richmond Beach in specific was where they did a lot of the timber business coming in, right? So there was the main hub in the late 1800s, early 1900s. You had a lot of vacation houses. I think you used to own one that was somebody's cabin at one point and maybe added on to. There's still a bunch of cute little cabins that are right on the beach or right on the edge of the train tracks.
So it's fascinating, just so you know, this kind of little FYI, if you actually purchase down on the water, the city of Shoreline and FEMA and the state will not allow you to expand the footprint, the existing footprint of the house. So you can build up, but you can't build out. That's really unique. So you got to keep the same footprint. So I think the first house that we bought when we moved to Richmond Beach was definitely a beach house cabin that had been renovated multiple times.
Yeah.
And so that's most likely the case with all the newer looking houses down on the beach. But yeah, it was a beach. It was like a vacation home beach community.
Yeah. And it's sweet. I mean, thinking of the housing in Richmond Beach, you've got a lot of these older cabins down by the water. You've got some, older, really small houses on the hill. You've got some mid-century mixed in and a few custom houses, mainly teardowns though. There's not a lot of newer construction in Richmond Beach. It's mainly the urban infill style.
That's it.
Tearing down an older, smaller house and building, a dream house. Because it is one of the premier places that people want to live in Shoreline.
Yeah, many of them have views or peekaboo views. So yeah,
it's not really a flat beach town.
No,
it's not like the California beach town. You're on a hill on Richmond Beach. The whole thing is a big hill.
Yeah, and I'll go as far as saying this from personal experience over the last 6 or 7 years living in this awesome community. Many a times in the winter, I like to walk. Like I get home from work at 6 or 7 and I'm going to take my dogs for a little walk. The Richmond Beach neighborhood communities, I've never, ever felt unsafe or uncomfortable. They're neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And so I believe, and this has been my personal opinion, the Richmond Beach community is a great community. It's safe, a lot of families, and we've seen a lot of growth too. I mean, you see a house go for sale in Richmond Beach, if it's reasonably priced, it's gone.
Last long.
Yeah,
even when the market's a little bit slower, it seems to be one of those places where things are selling pretty quick. And we're talking about higher price points, right? So that's a good transition to talking about the housing prices. And of course these change, right? So this is currently, but you've got some housing on the lower end, $850 to $1 million range. There's some condos and townhouses kind of right along Richmond Beach Road. There's actually a couple over 55 communities as well. But you've got some lower priced housing, and then I'd say the majority of the houses are probably in that $1.5 to $2.5 million range right now. And of course, you've got some that are even more if you're right on the water and you've got one of the nicer houses right on the beach. But some of those cabins are even in that $1.5 to $2.5 million range, depending on how updated they are.
Yeah.
But it's a super, super expensive area compared to Shoreline as a whole. Last week, we were talking about the median sales price, average sales price being in that $1 million range in Shoreline, and Richmond Beach is really pushing it on the high end as one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Shoreline.
I think you go into any community in the Puget Sound, and if you've got a view of the water, whether it be up on the hill view or down on the water, you're going to pay more. You're just going to pay a premium for the housing. The second, you're furthest away from, I-5 and 99. So it's considered I would say a more safe, less trafficked community.
Yep.
Third, really cool parks. So on both ends of Richmond Beach, you've got Saltwater Park on one end, which is an incredible park. I mean, on any given weekend, you're going to see
that thing is
hundreds of cars packed. Yeah.
That thing is so packed.
Yeah. And then we live near the north end of Richmond Beach. And I don't know if I'm saying this right, but Caillou Park.
That's about how I would say it.
Yeah, it's a cool little park at the very north end. People can park all along the road there, and that does get a lot of traffic. In fact, there's a cool little playground for the kids.
But it's pretty small. There's not a lot of parking there, so there's a lot less people at that park than Richmond Beach Saltwater Park. And it's also maybe one where you have more people in the neighborhood going to it versus somebody coming from Seattle or Edmonds thinking, let's go to Richmond Beach. That's not the park they're thinking of,
that's more local. Yeah, for sure. Saltwater Park is the destination park for sure.
My kids also really like the Richmond Beach Library Park or Community Park. It kind of goes by both names. So there's a library, and then behind it, it's a pretty huge open grass field. You've got a nice playground, and it's easy to walk if you want to just walk down towards Richmond Beach.
What's fascinating too, because my wife and I take walks up through there. Across the street from that park, they have tennis courts too. So as tennis and pickleball are getting more and more popular, that thing's always packed as well. So cool little grassy area to walk the dog or play with the dog or play with the kids, fly the drone.
Do you ever go to the botanical gardens?
No.
Do you know there's botanical gardens in Richmond Beach?
I've seen the signs, but no, I've not been there.
Kruckeberg, I think that's how you say it. They have they're right on the edge, so it's over more towards Edmonds.
Is that near your old house in Edmonds?
It's near my old house. Yeah. So you're right over there on the border of Edmonds, Shoreline. There's some, and they have pretty restrictive hours, but some cool little paths and cool gardens in there. So I think I went in there one time and I was just trying to go for a run, and it was open, and they're like, it's not open. Kicked me out. That was my first experience going. I was like, I'm just gonna go for a run through the botanical garden.
We don't accept joggers.
And they're like, sorry, you're not welcome here. You got to come back between these certain windows. That's funny. You just have to make sure you hit it. But they've got cool native gardens and classes and stuff like that. So
that's cool. That's cool.
So school-wise, right? People are always thinking about, hey, if you are considering schooling for children, what do you got going on in Richmond Beach? And Richmond Beach has some of the best schools in Shoreline. The east side of Shoreline, there's some pockets too we'll talk about in a different episode. They might argue with us about this, but niche.com has an A rating for Syrie Elementary School, which is in Richmond Beach. Einstein Middle School, which is in Hillwood, right up the hill, right by my house. And then you've also got Shorewood High School. All of them have A's on the niche.com rating, and all have some type of, best, top whatever in the state type of rankings. So pretty good, robust schools in Shoreline in general. But over in this part of Shoreline, you've got some pretty great schools.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, you've got another school up the hill, Kings, which is in Hillwood as well. It's a private Christian school. My kids go there. I think your kids have gone there too. I don't think you could go wrong with the public schools either in Shoreline.
Great schools, great area. And I think we talked about that on the opening episode. That's actually what brought us. We weren't really familiar with the Richmond Beach community, but the schools brought us there, and we fell in love with the community. So
yeah, which is cool. It's like the opposite of me. I knew about it and wanted to move. And that's why I wanted to live in the area. First kind of the South Edmonds neighborhood, and then now Hillwood. And you came specifically to fall in love with it just like I did in the same way. Right? I went to high school at Kings. Your kids were going there, and you're like, oh, this is an awesome area. We love it here. This is really sweet. So it just took you a lot longer to figure it out.
Well, you gotta save up your dollars, Zach. It's not cheap. We're gonna talk about the financial aspects of living.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that? I think that this is a good
jump into that.
Point to talk about.
So I mean, it did take some time. I teach first time home buyer classes. I mean, you guys, I've been in the mortgage finance industry for 18 years. I've been investing in real estate for over 25 years. So I've owned multiple homes. I always tell my clients, you got to get in the game. You got to get the snowball rolling down the hill to create equity, and then you transition that equity. So it took 3, 4, 5 houses for Jenny and I to build up some net worth, to put down that large down payment on a home to live in this community. But, you know, Zach mentioned earlier, there's a couple of subsets, if you will, of living in Richmond Beach. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. I think the first one you said is about that 850 to kind of like that 1.2 million. That's kind of in the neighborhoods.
It's a small house on the very west side of Richmond Beach, or it's a condo, townhouse type of deal.
Yeah, probably doesn't have a crazy great view. Probably not. Yeah. But, you know, if you were looking in that price point, you could live in this community for right around, like Zach said, 850, 1.2. I'm going to split it down the middle, 1 million. Okay. So 1 million purchase price, with the average down payment there being about 7%, you know, so you can either add more or put less, but 7%. We're going to assume that you got about $500 a month in, you know, additional debt. So in order to buy this home, you need a total household income of approximately $200,000 a year to buy about $1 million home in Richmond Beach. And this does include property tax estimates and all that good stuff. So let's say you're like, okay, yeah, but I want a house with a view. You're going to be looking in that, maybe that part of town, or excuse me, that part of Richmond Beach. It's got that nice view, little bigger house. So let's say that $1.8 to $2 million price
point. Be closer to 2 million. For that. Yeah.
So I'm going to pick 2 million. So at that price point, you're going to put 20% down, like Jenny and I did, right?
Yeah.
So 20% down, $2 million house, 20% down. You're going to need, with property taxes and homeowners insurance estimates included, a total household income of about $330,000 a year.
So quite a bit bigger jump there in the income.
And so I can tell you, because I do mortgages in the Richmond Beach community, most of my clients that are buying the $2 to $3 to $4 million homes in Richmond Beach, they're putting down a little bit more than 20%, right?
Yeah. They're not necessarily financing a couple $1 million.
Yeah. So, you know, these options, these estimates can vary. Like we always say, hey, if you want kind of like a no pressure, just kind of an FYI type estimate or a conversation, reach out to Zach and I. But I also want to disclose two things here. We're July of 2025. So these estimates are based on July of 2025's mortgage rates, right? And home values. The other thing, because I did just kind of talk about mortgage estimates, I didn't really talk about rates, but estimates, I do want to disclose I am a Washington State licensed mortgage loan officer. My license number is 115349. I have to do that to stay in compliance.
I love it when he does that.
I just got to do it, man. I love my job. I've been doing this for too long.
As a real estate agent, I don't have to say my license number all the time. I actually have to look it up. I don't know what my license number is memorized. Like
I have to know mine.
I know what my MLS login number is.
That's funny. Yeah.
So, Dan, it's not super like accessible for public transit in Richmond Beach. Most of it, there's some buses that run, but it's mainly access to via driving, right? And then you've also got, if you want to get out to 185th, which is the main road, you've got the light rail station there as well. Yeah. So you can get to it. You have to drive to it, but it's not super far away. But as far as like direct you're not going to walk all the way there from Richmond Beach. No. You could if you really like walking.
We see a lot of our neighbors when we're going to events use an Uber, you know, close to Seattle. It's not too expensive. Close to the airport. Jenny and I have Ubered to the airport before, SeaTac. So, but that's Richmond Beach. You're looking more along those lines.
So if you were to sum it up, who do you think is the type of person that's interested in Richmond Beach? Like what's the profile of the person, you know, what they like and why they would like Richmond Beach?
So that's what I love most about Richmond Beach. I think you've got more of, like myself, a seasoned homeowner that's owned 3, 4, 5 homes. It's buying kind of their dream home or their forever home here, right? Yeah. You don't see a lot of Airbnbs. You don't see a lot of quote unquote vacation homes. People that are down on the water. This is funny. The people that live down on the water, which are my neighbors, I think we're like the youngest, and I'm 50, Zach. So these are people like my neighbors. I was like, how long have you lived here? Oh, we bought this house in 1991, you know? And so
they paid a lot for it in 1991, probably.
$500,000-$600,000.
Which was a lot of money in 1991.
It's worth $4 million now, right?
Yeah.
So, It's
inflation.
You see a lot of down on the water. It's not the vacation homes or the Airbnbs. These are people that have lived here for a long time.
It's a dream home.
You dream home. Now, as you go up the hill, we're going to talk about Innis Arden down the road, but that's kind of more of your high-end entrepreneurs, higher-end seasoned tech, stuff like that, physicians, etc.
Get some different amenities too, right?
But that's a different community. That's Innis Arden. If you're talking about the hillside of Richmond Beach, there's a wide variety. I see first-time home buyers that just do well for themselves. You got dual household income. You also see a lot of in Richmond Beach parents that have lived there in the gift of equity. They're gifting their houses to their kids. Just like Edmonds, I think you're seeing a lot of that younger generation coming in and living there. And so that's what I love about it. And like you mentioned before too, you do have the first time home buyer community. You can buy a townhome or a condo in Richmond Beach for under $1 million, which is, if you look at north of Richmond Beach, you got Edmonds. It's really hard to buy in Edmonds for under $1 million, right? If you look at south of Richmond Beach, Ballard and Blue Ridge, those are higher priced communities too.
But there are opportunities to buy maybe a more outdated house for lower on that price point, and then add some value to it over time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are buying some of those houses and renovating them and making them into these $2.5 million houses without tearing them down. They're just doing big remodels. It's pretty common to see as well.
Yeah. I'll tell you firsthand, you guys, because I've lived in this community now for over 6 years. It's an incredible community, a lot of diversity, a lot of fun. It's safe. That was a big thing for us. We came from Woodway. Woodway was safe. Prior to that, we came from Lake Stevens, and where we lived in Lake Stevens, it was safe. And so I think if you have a family, I think that's one of the, safety, schools, accessibility. Those are the three big things that really were attractive for us.
Yeah, and I think, as Richmond Beach, as we're wrapping this up, super involved community too. Yeah. You've got a website for the community.
iHeartRB.
Yeah, and you've got different events every single month.
Yeah.
Way more involved than Hillwood. I'd say it's probably one of the most involved neighborhoods, if not the most involved neighborhood in all of Shoreline. Yeah. We had an ice cream social.
You did.
That's one of the main events every year. Yeah. So I think it's pretty cool, all the different things. And people come to the Richmond Beach things even when they don't live in Richmond Beach, like the Strawberry Festival and things like that. Right. So I think Richmond Beach is a great spot in Shoreline. We're going to continue to talk through different neighborhoods as we follow along in this Living in Shoreline series. We would love to hear from all of you. If you have feedback or thoughts or comments about Richmond Beach, things that you love, maybe you live in the neighborhood. And if you do have questions about buying or selling in the area as well, Dan and I would love to be a resource for you.